Sup, Nerdmigos? I'm the Jive Talker Nerd, John Norgrove, and this is Nerd Jive. Sort of a review jive, but about books, and not even about, like, the audio kind, like real books made with trees and such, because I'm an old man. That's my favorite kind of books. So, recently, I think it was Apple TV who released a trailer for their new TV series, their new Apple TV series or whatever, Foundation, which is based on the Isaac Asimov series of books, also called the Foundation series. There's 6 of these here, there's 7 of these here, I can count. There's 7 of those there. There's definitely 7. I can count. And it's based on these 7 books. Now, I've read the first 3 Foundation books 2 or 3 times, and I've read the first one probably like 5 times, including this time. And so I just finished the first book, so that's the book that we're going to talk about. The first book in the Foundation series is simply called Foundation. It's nice and simple. And then it continues Foundation and Empire, Second Foundation, Foundation's Edge, Foundation and Earth, Prelude to Foundation, which is a prequel often read before, and Forward the Foundation, which sometimes is also often read before. So I read the books in the order in which they were published, not in the chronological order within the universe. And the primary reason why is, and I've seen other people mention this before online, is that if you read them in universal chronological order, then the sort of pomp and mysterious circumstance that exists in the first book, and to a lesser extent, but still so, in the second book on psychohistory, tends to sort of get grayed out, right? So if you read the prequels beforehand, then you don't get the, like, I don't understand fully what psychohistory is sort of a thing. I mean, I guess if you're rereading the books, it really wouldn't matter so much, but it's sort of like this was the manner in which they were wrote, assuming that Asimov did not, and I'm pretty certain he did not, write all of these books and then choose to release them in a different order than was chronological. More likely, he wrote them in this order, and these books prequel came as a later story to his mind. Maybe even something he wanted to write from the very beginning, but he just never got around to it or didn't feel like it was the right time. But either way, I sort of like the original flow of the books, so that's why I read it that way. All right? The first Foundation book takes place over a couple of 100 years-ish, right? So I'm only like 100 pages or something into the second book right now, so that's why I was like, I gotta get this review in before I go. But so the first Foundation book takes place over like 100 years, couple of 100 years, something like that, right? And it starts with Selden, the guy who invented psychohistory. So psychohistory is the sort of psychology, statistical mathematics prediction algorithm that he uses, I guess. So it's the idea that because humans sort of devolve, humans as an individual are very complex creatures, but humans as a group begin to follow like normalized trends, right? And so what he does is he analyzes, he gives value mathematically to events and trends and the way these groups of humans move, and he's able to predict what's going to happen based on that, right? And so it relies on the idea that, like, nobody's aware that the future's been predicted because that could offset everything. I mean, like, not that they're not aware, but that they're not trying to actively fight against it or make it happen. That screws up the, like, trajectory that he can predict. And it relies on the idea that, like, herd mentality is gonna do herd stuff. It's actually a really fascinating concept for, like, a statistical science, right? The idea that, like, well, if a group of humans is always gonna act under a certain pretense, right? If you were to think about it like a waveform, like an electron's position, in like a circuit, right? It's position, but then there's also like these like quantum waves of potential around that position, and that's what allows them to like tunnel through barriers. That's why we're having like, that's why it's like you got to increase the tech to decrease the scale, so that way you don't have errant electrons jumping through barriers and such like that, whatever the fuck, right? But so, like, if you think about any group of people as having an opinion about a thing, but with that, like, sort of, like, quantum uncertainty, that, like, waveform of that probability wave, right? Around that group, right? And then you move that group through, down a path, right? Which would be like events, right? Down a path of events, then you should be able to, theoretically, I would assume, reasonably predict the outcome that group's going to take. I mean, maybe this is totally a thing and people do this, and maybe it's like total fucking horseshit and hokum. I honestly have no fucking clue. But it's an interesting concept, and that's the basis for the first book. Like, the biggest dick in the first book is psychohistory. So he predicts that the Empire, this, like, galaxy-spanning human empire, is going to fail, like, within the next 300 years or something. And, the Empire is not super happy with that news coming out, right? They don't like people saying that they're not going to be around shortly. So they trump up some charges on him to get him, to get him in front of the court, and the court's like, hey, listen, all right, listen. These are super trumped up charges, but what we can do is, right, and he does this, like, he's like kind of a manipulative smart boy about it, and he gets him to this place where he's just like, what if instead of hit me in the head with a rock and put me underground, what if you just banished me to the outer world? And they're like, oh, that's a good idea, the Rim Planet, you can continue your research, keep telling us those secrets, bro, but, you're not going to bug us, and you're not going to be in, like, the news and stuff like that. And he's like, that's a great idea. And they're like, fine, you have 3 months, you got to get the fuck out of here. And so his assistant, Harry Seldon's assistant, is like, 3 months isn't enough time. We got to set all this stuff up. And Seldon's just like, what's up? I've been doing it for like 2 years now. So it's basically done. We just got to get on a ship and go. So they leave. Seldon dies. And this is all like, that's the end of it. It jumps forward in time, like, 30 years, 20 years or something like that. And, yeah, something like that. And it's like, hey, we got this huge, like, problem presenting itself, right? Where it's like, oh, these, like, for this time, all these kingdoms, like, the kingdoms being shit, and the provinces on the outskirts of the galaxy are starting to get real fucky about shit. And so, like, one of these provinces is like, what's up? Like, you got to give us shit. Like, you got to give us the stuff, right? And so Seldon's assistant has to go through a bunch of, like, planning and, like, figuring stuff out and, like, political manipulation to, like, solve that problem. But he doesn't want to try too hard to solve it. And it's just really cool. The way that I like to describe this book recently, right, through the during this last read when I was talking to wife about it, was that it's like Game of Thrones, but, like, gently sci-fi. I mean, because they're older books, right? So everything's like nuclear power, hyper-Ks, hyperspace, that kind of thing. But it's not like hard science sci-fi. But it's a lot like Game of Thrones. It's a lot of, like, political intrigue and manipulation, and, like, oh, we're gonna, like the whole thing is that, like, Seldon predicted that we would do the right thing, because if we waited until the last possible minute to do the thing, we only have one choice, and that one choice is the right answer, right? And, and then we move from there. So there's a lot of this, like he's making a lot of moves, and as you move through there's basically, like, 3, like, prime stories, right? Seldon's assistant, right? And that's the very beginning of the Foundation. And then, the second mayor or whatever, and like what he has to deal with like the kingdoms and, like, all this kind of mystery stuff. And then the third layer, which is like an even further down the line guy, like even more of a jump forwards in time, and he's what do they call him? A merchant prince. So he's like a trader who gets involved in some shit and, like, starts being aware of it. And there's this whole thing where, like, psychologists would be able to, like, kind of glean a little bit of the truth of what Seldon was doing. Because Harry Seldon's plan is, all right, so the Empire's going to crash in 300 years. All right, when the Empire fails, when the Empire of Humanity dies because it's so fat, then there's going to be this like 10,000 year long period of time where it's just barbarism and the planets are having to rediscover technology, like basic technology again. And then after 10,000 years, a second, even more powerful, even longer lived and better empire will rise from its ashes. Now, Selden, using his predictive math, was able to figure out that we can reduce the time it takes for the second empire to arise, the time of barbarism. We can reduce it from 10,000 years down to like 300 years or something like that, or 1,000 years or something, right? To like a way shorter period of time. I don't remember what it is. And so the third generation in this book is like this traitor who gets involved in some political stuff and like kind of becomes like a little aware of like Selden's gambit and is like, oh, okay, we need to flag. Oh, it's windy outside. I hope you can hear it. If not, weird flag ghosts. It's okay, flag. There you go. So he starts getting involved in it, and it moves from, and this follows the Foundation, starting off as a scientific adventure, all right, scientific adventure, and moving into a powerful government, right, and then moving into a religiously based government, right? So they're trading with the other empires by like the other empires don't have nuclear technology or like microcircuitry or nothing like that, right? But if you send some of your kids, they can get educated by the Foundation and they become priests in the Foundation, and the priests are know how to like build this thing or make this thing, and hey, now you have a generator for your house, a nuclear generator for your city, or like a solar generator for your house, or force field belts or like laser guns or whatever the fuck, right? So they move to this like priestly sort of a state, and then with the third generation in this first book, you get they're like the priestly thing isn't working no more. People are starting to question the priestly stuff. We got to do something else, and so he becomes this trader prince, not like merchant prince, like trade czar kind of a thing, where he realizes that we no longer need the religion. Like the pressure of the fact that we can just like not provide people shit is good enough, and that's where we're gonna go. And that's actually where the second book starts, is sort of like, all right, hey, we've been doing this trade thing for a little while, now we got like new fresh pressures we gotta start coping with. So this first book takes you through like 3 generations and the evolution of this society that exists solely to try to reduce the amount of time the galaxy is in barbarism after the collapse of the first empire, or the collapse of the human empire, right? And so it takes you through like 3 like main governmental and like theological and philosophical generations within that, but it also talks a lot about why is the empire failing, and why are these strange things happening within the empire, right? The empire's, it's great. They have faster than light communication, and they can teleport ships across the galaxy. It would take 10,000 years to cross this distance between the stars, and they can do it in like 2 days. It's almost no time. It's super easy, And they've got like atomic laser guns that fucking vaporize people, and they got like here's a force field. Cover your body, like you're safe. Shoot me with lasers, nothing's gonna hurt me, and beautiful mansions and all this like pomp and circumstance, and the emperor is like loved by everybody, and everybody is peace across the galaxy, no wars, all peace, and all this kind of stuff, and trade and technology. But it's like, why would it fail, right? I mean, everything seems good, it's so full of stuff, but why would it fail? And it does this great way of directly telling you why the empire is failing, and then showing you example after example after example of why the people who are arguing the empire isn't failing or could survive are wrong. And they're showing you people who are directly involved with the empire and how they are wrong, as well as exemplifying some of those empirical ideas within the Foundation, within the thing that's supposed to protect them. These people who are like, well, but, I mean, in the first generation, right, it's almost this like, well, the Empire, I mean, like the Empire's not really going to fail. Like Selden was just a crazy person. The Foundation's here to build it because it's like the Foundation was formed to build an encyclopedia, Encyclopedia Galactica, which is like a repository of all knowledge in the universe. And and he's told the government that like that is what's going to help shorten the period of barbarism, so don't worry, right? But like there's also some secret shit with like maybe it's more than that. Like maybe that's not, and I mean, they talk about it, it's like maybe the fact that the Foundation exists is the thing that's going to reduce the period of barbarism, and not the data contained within its books, right? The fact that you have like this at the edge rim of the galaxy, this like stronghold of knowledge that is moving pieces behind the scenes. Yes, pieces nearest to itself, but the movement of those pieces is going to echo out across the galaxy, and maybe that's what's doing it. And also, so this first book only talks about the Foundation facility on the planet Terminus, which is at the rim. Selden actually built two on opposite sides of the galaxy, Terminus, and then the other one, and I don't remember the other one's name. We actually have only heard its name like once or twice, I think. Like they mention it, but you're never on that planet. You're never talking to those people. You're never dealing with any of their stuff. They're just like, oh, like every once in a while you'll get like, don't forget, there's another one, the other side of the galaxy. We don't know what they're up to. We can't communicate or nothing. So there's a lot of that, like, sort of hints about other stuff. I mean, you can definitely tell that it's meant to be a big, tall tower of books. But, so one of the examples that they use, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I really love these books, so I'm excited to, like, read them and review them. But so one of the examples that they use is, one of the characters is talking to this, like, princely guy. And this princely guy is he like fancies himself a historian, and he knows about architecture and how to dig up bones. It's very like Indiana Jones. Like he fancies himself all these like I can do everything and I'm gonna figure it out and I'm trying to solve the mysteries. And the mystery he's trying to solve is the original homeworld of humans, which is, I love that mystery in a science fiction book, because it's like we know the original homeworld of humans. What's up, bitch? Fuck the future. But so like he's like oh, I'm trying to figure it out, and it's either like Proxima Centauri or Earth orbiting Sol or something in the Perseid cluster or something. He lists like 4 or 5 like star systems with known like orbital planets and whatnot, and he's like, it's one of these 5, but like we don't know which one. And like he's asked like, oh, so you're gonna like go there and like check them out? You're gonna go there and see what you can find or whatever? And the guy's like, no, why would I go there? That's crazy town. And they're like, no. I mean, you want to like dig shit up and like look for like do research and stuff. And the guy's like, no. Listen. In the old days, humans would go to these planets and like do history and dig stuff up and carbon date shit and like look for ruins. He's like, but nowadays we just go to the library and we can like read their books and then make conclusions off of the stuff that they wrote, right? Like weigh what each one says and be like, all right, well, this guy's clearly making this shit up, so we're gonna just like go with this or whatever. And he's like, so like I don't have to go nowhere or whatever. And the guy's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, it's new research, very new. I like that word, new. It's shiny, new. Yeah, But it's this idea that, and they talk about this a lot, it's this idea that people no longer create anything new in the Empire, and that's the problem. Nobody's trying to invent. Everybody just, beer, right? It's like, why would I try to make a new style of beer? Everybody likes, everybody likes IPA, so we're just gonna make IPA. And you're like, oh, what kind of IPA do you have? And you're like, regular. But I make it a little different, but regular. Don't worry, it's not weird. And so it's this idea that like instead of creating, everybody's just duplicating and copying, and there's no like discovery, and it's not even just that there's no discovery, it's that there's not even the desire for discovery, right? It's like, why would you try to fucking mix some ingredients and see what happens when you can just like look at a recipe from somebody else and then do exactly what that recipe says, and you get the food that you want in your face. Or go to a restaurant, that's even easier, right? So it's sort of like the death of invention, and the death for the desire to invent, most of all. And that's like one of the leading causes of the doom for the Empire. And that always sort of feels like... It's always more scary for an empirical doom to me, because it's like, yeah... like, people get lazy super easy, and, like, it's so easy to just rest on your laurels, and, like, especially if you're, like, a big city, living in a big city kind of person, or whatever the fuck, right? And it's just like, it's like you live in your apartment, and you can walk 2 blocks to the restaurant that you like, and you can walk 3 blocks to the work that you do for a living, and you can take the bus, you know, to the zoo because you like seeing animals sometimes when you're feeling stressed out or whatever. And you kind of get in this mode where, like, yeah, you know you have neighbors, but you don't know any of them. And, like, you've got friends, and you've got the 1 or 2 bars you go to, and you've got the 1 or 2 restaurants you go to, and the, 1 or 2 beers that you drink, and the 1 or 2 styles of food that you eat, and, like, your 1 or 2, like, I'm a jeans and shirt guy, or, like, I'm a cardigan and Dockers guy, or whatever the fuck, right? And you start to, like, normalize. Like, people start to just kind of, like... feel to the same motherfuckers, you know? And sometimes you see that, like, and it's not, like, intentional, it's not the collapse of an empire or some shit, right? But it's, like, sometimes you see that when you're, like, especially, like, when some new season shit happens, like, hey, like, we're in Rona time, so we're not seeing nothing right now. But, like, normally it's like, oh, I'm going to the beach, and you can just be like, 50% of these people at the beach are wearing the exact same bathing suit. That's, apparently the one that they were told to buy, and it really treats to this, like, hyper marketing, like, hyper normalization. Don't be weird, don't stand out, just, like, be, just consume and normal, and, like, it's that sort of evil, right? But it comes from the inside. It's not like a James Bond bad guy that you can just, like, shoot him. No more evil. Everything's fixed, guys, right? It's that, like, how do you shoot an idea like forced upon your mind from, like, McDonald's or something, like, you can't stop that. It's just it happens. It's marketing. I work in marketing, so I'm part of the problem, not the solution, but whatever. But it makes me think it's that like evil that's plausible a little bit to me. So I've always loved the way the Empire and the reasoning behind the Empire collapse in this book in particular. But either way, I know I've been dribbling on about this. I love this series. I think that everybody should read this. To me, these are absolute fucking classics of science fiction, and in reality, just classics of just classic books. Like, I think that this is this should be the kind of shit that you should read the first 3 of these in school. Is the level of love I have for this series of books, and in reality, a lot of Asimov's work. He's fantastic. He's up there with, like, Pratchett and, these like authors who just everything they touch is solid gold to me. But read Foundation. I have no doubt that it's available as an audiobook. If you're not, like, a heavy reader. These guys aren't very thick. They're very small books. So, I mean, I read through the second half of the first one in a single day. I just, like, just fucking powered through it. I had hurt my knee real bad. I was trying to be a bum, lay on the couch all day. Like, just, boo! Chew through it, and not even in, like, the whole of the day, right? I mean, yeah, not even the whole of the day. So, like, definitely check these out. I picked up this whole series, all these books, on Amazon for, like, dude, I don't know, like $40 or something. It was super fucking cheap, right? To buy all of them as opposed to one at a time or what have you. So I'll link specifically these books. I'll link the books below or whatever. So if you're interested in them, if you're a sci-fi person at all, if you really want, like, a good like thinking book, it really makes you think about a lot of shit. If you want to do that, this is a good. And honestly, if you just want to, like, listen to people make fun of idiots for doing idiot stuff, they got a lot of that in here also. It's real good. There's some like legitimately funny parts in this book where you're just like, wow, these guys are fucking idiots. This is amazing. And they're just like bumbling buffoons. Yeah, Don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, do all that kind of shit. Bells or whatever the fuck. I've been John Norgrove. This has been Nerd Jive. We're talking about the Foundation series. So you're going to get probably significantly shorter reviews for each of the other books. But this was the first one, and I kind of wanted to try to convince you guys to read it. So give these a read, and yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go inside and read some books. Cheers.